This is my Dragon Ball Super Masterclass Lesson 30, Dual Attack, or Dual and Triple Attack. The idea is, more attacks per card, being able to do more than one attack is something you definitely want to do, because you want to make the game easier for yourself, harder on your opponent. But it's something you have to take into account that your opponent might also use against you, so that will make defending harder, because they have every card they play will have multiple attacks, especially if they're playing cards that have multiple attacks. Like a leader, they could potentially attack twice. Like this Vegeta, for example, I'm using as the second auto. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a counter skill, switch this card to active mode, so it could potentially get 2 attacks a turn. So, which will increase its ability to punch through, as it were, through negates. So it can help you, keep your ability to get your usual amount of attacks per turn that you want. Your leader swing, unison swing, and battle card swing, right? So having these 3 types of cards capable of attacking more than once increases the chances of their attacks going through, so that we can at least have a minimum of 3 attacks going through, which has the potential of being 3 damage per turn. So you definitely want to make the game easier for yourself, harder for your opponents. It's kind of common sense, obviously, the idea of using dual attack, but it's the fact that dual attack is a thing, something you have to take into consideration when you're building your deck, and you want to take that into account defensively. You don't have to think too much when it comes to offense. Obviously, you should play stuff that has dual attack and take advantage of that. But when you have to defend, that's where your mastery of defense comes into play, right? Your ability to prepare, your ability to anticipate the fact that your opponent might attack more than once with a card individually. Especially now they have overwhelms that have dual attack. So normally overwhelms, just by overwhelming, that gives you an extra attacker. But that's about it, right? Like, you'll take that into consideration, right? Leader, unison, battle card swing, and then overwhelm as an extra potential swing, right? But if all 4 of those types of cards have a dual attack, then the amount of attacks, obviously, right, it doubles, literally, right? And makes it harder for your opponent to, be able to try to stop all the attacks. You're using a lot less resources to, attack your opponent with than how much the resource they're going to be using. They're going to use more. They're going to require twice as much defensive resources to stop, all your attacks. And that's if they're stopping them, which they should want to. I have these here as just examples of cards that can attack more than once. More than twice. So these are triple attackers. And this one right here has double strike, so that makes it even more dangerous. Because this has the potential to do 6 damage all by itself if all 3 attacks go through. But if not, that's okay, because it's not that big a deal. It's not that hard to get your opponent down to 2 life, like I always say. The first 4 is the easiest, the next 2 require some effort, the last 2 is the hardest. But if you have something like this, they can attack 3 times with double strike. You have 3 chances of doing the double strike damage. And the 3 chances, helps you with dealing with blockers, negates, and the potential of your opponent out comboing your attack. So at least you have 3 chances to try to bypass all 3 of those possibilities. And that's the point. You have to take those possibilities to account. There are negates that have the ability to stop more than one attack. Let me check something right quick. Make sure this is recording, because this is actually the second time recording this. So the program froze the first time I was recording this. Alright, so you can consider them double negates. I call them free negates. The cards where you have 5 or less life, you take a life and play a negate, like testing out position is one of the cards. Play it, negate an attack, and then you make a token that has blockers, so you can potentially stop 2 attacks off of 1 card. But you can look at it as a double negate, like dual negate as it were, like how we have dual attack. So because of things like that, you know, the fact that that's a factor, that there are negates that can put up a token, or there's even some negates that can restand blockers. So if your opponent block with something and they play a negate, the negates an attack and restands their blocker, then that gives them another potential block, right, another defense. So the fact that people can start, don't be surprised if you start seeing people playing cards like that, like Vado's Assistance. It's a red negate, negates an attack and lets you untap one of your battle cards. So if you have a battle card it's a blocker that you already block with, then you can use the negate to negate attack and then restand the blocker, so you can potentially block another attack and get and just off of 2 resources, a blocker and a negate, you're able to stop 3 attacks. That's the mindset you have to have as when you're defending, right? So since people can do that, that's why it would be important to be able to attack more than once, because of that factor. That 1 attack is not enough, right? Because your opponent can stop that 1 attack. Now they have the ability to stop an attack and block a second potential attack. So you want to make it where one of your resources can deal with that. The fact that there is negates that can make a blocker, that could potentially stop 2 attacks for 1 resource. You want your resources to be able to do more than something at a time. Just like we like cards to have more than 1 effect, because we like our cards to do more than 1 thing. Instead of just having just 1 effect, having 2, 3 effects comes in handy, right? So we should apply that to attacking, right? Having more attacks makes it more usable, right? More useful, because if you're attacking, opponent negates it or blocks it, that's okay. You got a second chance with the second attack. Normally, you would have to play more than 1 battle card in order to get an extra attack. So we have, unisons that can dual attack. We got unisons that can dual attack. They also have blocker, so that's a good combination, because that means you can attack and defend. So you can always keep your defense up while still attacking your opponent and applying pressure. Like you can attack your opponent and then double strike the battle card, the unison or battle card or leader, right? And try to do 2 damage and then restand the card and use it as defense, right? So anything that has dual attack and blocker is really nice, because you can attack and block. Just like this Android 16 has blocker revenge and dual attack, so you can attack with it and block with it, or attack with it twice, however way you want to use it. Plus, its ability to attack twice comes in handy in case you want to knock off a couple markers off of a unison, because unisons tend to stick on the field longer. So obviously it'll be hard, and there's no way of getting rid of a leader. So a leader will definitely stick on the field for a long, long time. Unison is the second thing that will stick, and a battle card, tends to not stick too long unless they have like barrier and maybe indestructible or something like that. If they're indestructible, they tend to stay on the field a little bit longer, but on average, battle cards don't stay on the field that long. But if they do, you definitely want them to put in as much work as possible. That's why having battle cards that do have the ability to attack more than once comes in handy, with the fact that once you put them on the field and you start using them, and if your opponent doesn't get rid of them, then you can just keep using them and don't have to replace them. Because normally you'll play a battle card, swing with it. If it gets KO'd by a skill battle card or by battle, usually you have to replace it. You have to play another battle card the following turn. Well, instead of having that situation of playing another battle card to replace it, being able to keep it on the field long enough so that you can just keep getting the most out of it, is the best case scenario. But of course, having a battle card out there that can attack twice, for example, and play another one that can attack twice is nice, because that's 4 attacks off of 2 resources. And that's what you have to do. What you have to think is the idea of you're trying to get the most out of your resources. Every individual card is a resource. You have to try to get the most out of it. That's where having effects come in, right? Skills come in. Low cost, being able, like for example, this Android 16, as you can see, has a rival, so you can play it for 2 energy instead of paying 6. Unlike this Piccolo and Gohan Piccolo card, you have to pay 6 to play it. the whole active main blue thing is just so you can discard it to get its active main skill, but to actually play it on the field and try to get the double strike and triple attack aspect of the card, you have to actually pay 6 to play it. But this card, you can set it up where you only have to pay 2 to play it. So that saves you energy, which means that allows that energy to be used to play other cards like negates and the blockers and stuff like that, obviously. 10k combo power. Pay 1 energy to get 10k power if you need to. So being able to pay less comes in handy. And that's the thing, is that you're trying to look at the idea of, try to get the most out of a card. So being able to play something for a really good card for cheap is important. Being able to attack more than once is important. Being able to do more than one thing, like be able to attack and block. So this card obviously represents a lot of that, because you could play for cheap. It has its blocker revenge, so not only can it block an attack, it can also get rid of whatever it blocks because of the revenge part, which is very useful. It has dual attack, so it can attack twice, or it can attack once and then restand, so that way you can use it to block. So you can attack and block, so that way you can have both a sword and a shield, so it serves multiple purposes in that regards. So obviously this will definitely be used as a way to be defensive and offensive at the same time, a sword and shield. This card right here would obviously just be a sword, but at least is a sword with 3 opportunities to deal damage, right? So a triple threat, as they say. But it's just one card, one resource that is that can give you that outcome. Trunks, as you can see, is a unison with dual attack. The fact that it's a unison, gives it a lot of protection, right? A lot of benefits. You don't have to worry about counterplays. You don't have to worry about cards that can interact with it negatively, because so technically it has like barrier and deflect, if you want to look at it that way, like if it's a battle card. So it being a unison, it's immune to those types of cards, so you don't have to worry about playing it. You just play it and there, you got it. It's ready to roll. Being dual attack means you get the most out of it, because you can only play one unison at a time anyway, so being able to attack twice with a unison is definitely a good idea, especially a unison that has both the blocker and dual attack. Very powerful keywords to combine. And if they threw in double strike, or even more busted. Obviously this has the ability to get triple strike, so that definitely makes it busted, right? It also has the auto to board wipe, so that's for a different conversation. So this card obviously is really, really good. But the fact that it has dual attack and blocker, and it's a unison, so it will stick on the field and stay on the field a lot longer than a battle card would. And again, block, it has the blocking capability, but you can also attack with it. So you can attack with it, and and get something out of it, but also still be able to defend. And then just being able to use it pretty much almost every turn. At least if you can get 2 turns out of it, is always good. The ability to attack and defend for 2 turns is getting the most out of each resource. So that's where dual attack comes in, because when you play something, especially if it's a 6-drop, you definitely want to get the most out of it. You don't want to play it, swing with it, for example, and then it gets blocked or negated or out comboed, and it's like, oh, but that feels like a waste. So that's where multiple attacks comes in. But again, it's not just you being able to play, because obviously this is just common sense for you to play cards that can attack more than once. It's the fact that you have to take into account that your opponent can do that. And as you can see, a lot of these newer cards, Bandai has been putting the dual attack keyword into most of these newer cards, among triple strike and some other stuff. But some of the newer cards, I noticed that the dual attack keyword is on there. And then, of course, it's combined with other stuff like double strike or blocker. So these are things we definitely have to take into account. So that means the game is leaning towards that direction the most. Cards that can attack and defend. So you gotta keep that in mind. Obviously, we should use these cards ourselves, so it makes the game easier for us. But keep in mind that our opponent can also use them, so it's going to make the game harder for us in that regards. So offensively, dual attack is awesome. Defensively, dual attack sucks, right? Because defending against dual attack sucks. So keep that in mind. Improve your defensive capabilities, the ability to That's why like an effect that says after you block, you can restand basically makes it dual block, right? So there are somewhat, I wouldn't be surprised if they create dual block as an actual keyword later on, but for now, we got dual attack, right? But there's some effects that give a dual block like ability, the ability to block and restand, so you can block again. Um, so that's a thing. But like I said, dual attack is definitely something you want to use, and something you definitely don't want your opponent to use, because it's going to definitely make the game harder for you. That's the thing. But as I always say, make the game easier for yourself, make it harder for your opponent, and knowing that stuff like this exists, right? The fact that more cards are going to have dual attack, which means you're going to have your defenses up there. Floodgate negates are going to become, stable more so than than already is. It's just, floodgate negates are just popular just because they're good. But now they're just not going to just be good. They're going to be unnecessary. Like you're going to need it. The fact that your opponent could probably have a leader that can attack twice, play a unison for low cost that can attack twice, like two drop dual attack, that'd be busted, right? And shit, a freaking 1-drop unison with dual attack would be busted. And then a cheap a battle card with dual attack, and then of course there's some overall battle cards that have dual attack. So throwing all those factors together, all those things together in one turn, the fact that for like just 3 to 4 cards, your opponent can be swinging 8 times at you off of 4 cards. That's almost half of your opponent's hand, right? On the most basic average, that's half of your opponent's hand, but it's going to output so much that you better make sure you have floodgate negates, right? You better have dual negates, as it were, right? The free negates that can negate an attack and make a blocker. Dual negates. So gotta keep that in mind. That's gonna be a thing. So already we're already using floodgate negates because of going wide boards or aggro strategies. Then there's the then we're using the free negates or the dual negates, however you want to call them, to help deal with going wide strategies, aggro strategies. But you don't have to go wide to output multiple attacks or to output a lot of damage. You could just use cards that have dual attack, which more and more cards are starting to have the dual attack keyword, right? That puts a scenario where you're using less cards to do more damage, right? Less cards, more damage. So you're getting more bang for your buck, as it were, right? So that's important. This is definitely something any skillful or pro player should already be doing, already be considering, already be thinking about. But for the average player, this is something you should consider. One, to make the game easier for yourself by playing dual attack. But second, just keep in mind that this is a thing. You might want to be prepared for it. So this is both a warning and a suggestion. I highly recommend play dual attack cards, because I definitely am. But I also warn that you might need to improve your defensive capabilities. Make sure you have blockers that can block more than one attack. A good card for that would be Raditz, Giant Force. He's a unison blocker that has the ability to block twice. There's a Gohan 3-drop Eradicator Evil, I think, or something like that. Great Saiyaman Eradicator Evil, 3-drop that can potentially block 2 attacks and has revenge and restands, energy. So that's another thing to consider. So don't be too surprised to see more dual blockers. Blockers that can block more than once. Even though they don't have that dual blocker as a keyword, they will have an effect that somewhat does it. So Raditz, Giant Force, and the Great Saiyaman Eradicator Evil. These are 2 cards I could think off the bat that have that dual blocker-like ability. And then of course the dual negates or the free negates, whatever you want to call them. The testing the opposition cards and whatnot, where it could negate an attack and make a token that could block. Things like this. Well, obviously consider those cards to help you defend against multiple attacks in general, but also come in handy against cards that have dual attack, obviously. But also play dual attack yourself. Play cards that have dual attack and blocker, obviously, are good, so that way you can attack and still, defend. Especially if your opponent has dual attack, well, you could stop one attack. Can't stop both attacks, but at least you can stop one. And stopping half of a card's attacks is better than not stopping any of the attacks at all, right? So definitely, this is the future of gameplay I see for the game. Definitely the way I'm going to be playing, obviously, the most is definitely going to be putting a lot of dual attacks. I've already been doing that. That's part of why I'm making this video, just to share that idea. Like, you might want to play a lot of dual attackers, because I know I've been getting a lot of benefits out of playing dual attackers. And there's a couple times where I faced against a couple dual attackers, and they were putting in some work, but it wasn't that many. And it was like, yeah, once people catch on to put into the idea of putting more dual attackers, yeah, it's going to make the game harder if they put more dual attackers, because it'll be harder to defend, which in one way is a good thing, and another way is a bad thing, right? It's good for you to make it hard for your opponent to stop your attacks, but not good for you because it'll make your opponent will make it hard for you to stop their attacks. So it's a double-edged sword sound, right? It's a damn if you do, damn if you don't. But definitely be in the scenario where you at least have dual attack, just want to have the advantage. But the second thing is, even if you don't have the advantage because your opponent has the same amount of things, like you have dual attack, your opponent has dual attack, right? You have dual block, right? Your opponent has dual block, basically. Like, all right, cool. At least y'all even. It's better to be have the advantage by having dual attacks and dual blocks, and your opponent doesn't, than to be in the opposite where you don't have that at all. And if you and your opponent have the same thing, y'all both equal, then cool. Then hopefully it's just more about outplaying your opponent more so than anything. But you definitely don't want to be in the latter. You don't want to be in the scenario where you don't have dual block, you don't have floodgate negates, right? You don't have the ability to attack more than once per card. You don't want to be in that scenario. So you don't want to be at a disadvantage or left behind. So this is your heads up. This is your suggestion / warning. I suggest you play these, you play dual attacks, dual blocks, all that good stuff that I've mentioned. Dual negates, floodgate negates, all that good stuff. Anything that reduces attacks, like Hachiyak, stuff like that. Like leaders that reduces the amount of attacks your opponent can do per turn, stuff like that. Definitely keep that in mind, and that should be the end of this video.